Oh, maybe make sure my notifications are on. Glare in my glasses. Oh, yeah. Welcome. Hi, James. Hi, Anna. Irina. Patricia. I love to greet everybody, as you know. Welcome. Welcome to Lynn. Hi, Catherine. Happy day is it? Is it Tuesday?
It is.
I know.
We all have to think a little bit on that these days. Yeah. Hi, everybody.
Hi. This is Lynn Kenny. She's going to be presenting today. I'm just going to do a couple announcements. Presenting. Sharing.
Chatting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Hi, Tangent. Good to see you. We had our chat last night. Hi, Lucy. Good to see familiar faces, familiar names. Before I give the floor to Lynn, I have just a couple announcements. This Friday, what's the date? I don't know the date. This Friday, so it's the noon time. Doc Smith, Healing is Free, will be here to do some such cool stuff. We met today. He explores the he knows ancient Chinese medicine, basically, from like 300 BC, the Bible of Chinese medicine he was showing me, and the intrinsic healing that is available to all of us, which we talk about here all the time, and works a lot with putting weight on the head so that the spine can elongate, and very cool stuff that I'll let him describe. But he'll be here for a full hour and a half to teach us a bunch of healing techniques that you can do with stuff in your house, with a bag of beans, which I'll be using because I don't have his fancy weights. So be sure to check that out Friday. And then I feel like this week, with the healing yesterday on the betrayal wound and some work with some friends and clients in the last couple of days, I really want to do like a really deep dive embodiment. So tomorrow I might do like a full hour of coming into the body and healing wounds, deep dives into the heart, etc. And then Thursday, do kind of an ask me anything open question for what that dredges up, because it'll dredge up all the scary stories. So we're going to do a 1-2 deep healing tomorrow and Thursday, and then have Doc Smith on Friday, and Lynn is gonna teach us some really cool stuff. Hi, Claudia. Hi, Randolph. Hello from Effingham. Oh, there's a song from Ben Folds about Effingham, Illinois. Friday, May 9th. Perfect. I do need that. Hi, Al. Cool. Okay, good. Well, everybody, welcome, Lynn. I'm so happy you're here. I'm so excited to learn from you. I can't wait. Magical elf with us today.
Yes, my elfdom has been fun to explore over the past week or so.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah. As someone who's fully into embodiment, like the first thing that's signaling is that, there are a few nerves here. So I'm just going to put it out there, which is really interesting for me. So that's all good information because it gives me information about, what to even dip into right away. But my background, well, I am a Feldenkrais practitioner. I haven't called myself that in a very long time. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with that, that is about using very small movements of the body in order to access the nervous system and calm down any excitement in the nervous system, reconnect everything throughout the body, we kind of lose our landscape, like the back of ourselves becomes very foreign to us. And so it's like to remap the brain. And I've worked with a lot of kids with sensory issues and who are otherly abled. And so that's my 17, 18 year ago background. And since then, I've done a lot of energy work and folded in a whole bunch of other things. But the really exciting thing that I'm working on right now is unity consciousness. I'm working with that. And that is like my new everything that I've learned over the past 5 years has fed into this place where it's all about that, but it's been a really beautiful unfolding. So I'm also a wisdom portal guide. Um, I find portals in my forest and I sort of enter into them. And they're all portals of the heart. So they're all very much embodied portals. So it's like finding in the external world what we can work with in the inside so that then we have these kinds of pathways to enter in and enter along. And so we can then access deeper and deeper into the heart space, which has been quite an adventure. And as an elf, I'm really enjoying that.
Totally.
um,
You guys can like sit still and explore energy for days.
um, but what's happened, so, I moved to Connecticut about 5 years ago, and so these woods have been explored for that long. And uh, as the portals first opened up, it was like working with the masters and working with all of these beautiful um, wisdom energies. And there were just a few portals that had presented themselves to me. Um, and then more and more and more and more, and it became really wild. And there were so many that I couldn't even keep up. Um, but the first layer was all about doing like individual healing and access points, and I was collecting those for a while, and then every one of the portals began to open up, so that it was more about gathering and about connecting and collecting and the collective healing. So I started doing these programs called Women in the Woods. And I take groups of women into the woods and we do self healing. So I mean, the woods is just such a natural extension of, it is just healing, period. It's not even an extension of anything. It just holds out things for us every single day. And all we need to do is listen and take the invitation. So that's been one of the explorations. And then lately it's been this like unity consciousness. So all of the portals are sort of pointing in to this space where we can all be and see and feel our oneness and our, sort of blurring that line between perceiver and perceived. And so that's where most of my work is right now. And that's where all this eye work is coming in. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
came to you through this portal work, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, part of it, honestly, part of it is, way back from the Feldenkrais days, right? It's like, oh, the eyes are so instrumental in our movement. And when we are able to lead our movements with our eyes instead of having our eyes follow, our movements become very graceful and very light and very connected. But when our eyes are very fragmented and our eyes cannot kind of follow a continuous line, and when they jump, which they do often if we haven't done any eye work, um, then, everything becomes choppy. So so there's a lot of, weaving in on all levels, but lately, yeah, it's been the portals and it's been like this unity consciousness, and it's like the eyes just keep coming up, when things are just like, "Look here, and look here again, and look here again." And I have about, I don't know, 35 notebooks from the last, 5 years just filled with all sorts of, research that I've done in the woods.
Yes. Yes, 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 you just get delivered a whole chapter of a book, just a knowing. It's just the knowing just comes to you through your body, through your being. Yeah,
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, it's like, picking up the breadcrumbs as they come. and then writing them down, because if at this point, if I don't write everything down, things just come too rapidly after a while, and it's like you have to be able to look back and actually see, oh, I forgot that. I need to weave that one back in. That's really kind of something I want to explore. So, yeah.
Mm, mm.
But
That's why I started the radio hour. It's like, it's too much. It was too much that I needed to share. And then I knew there were gonna be so many others of us who are getting who just wanna share, who just are the portals for information, you know?
oh, yeah, absolutely. And portals are popping up everywhere, right? Like these days, before it was like, oh, I'm a portal guide, and now I'm like, portals, it's just like part of everyday speech.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about it. So it's like, oh, okay. I
It
guess
can
I
come out.
shy away from that
Yeah, exactly.
anymore.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, but what I've noticed lately is that the eyes just offer us such a wonderful opportunity to get to so much so quickly, and without going into all the rabbit holes of
Mm,
the rest of the body, like without having to go fully into the story, without having to know which lifetime we're healing,
mm,
without, it's like, so a couple things, and we talked about this a little bit, Megan.
mm,
So one thing is that the eyes don't grow, right? Like that they stay the same size, and they're just as they were when you were born, right? And also, which is very interesting, and I'm still sort of mulling that one over.
mm,
Um, but the other thing is that, and I know you've done this in the mirror, and I did this with a friend. Um, we eye gazed, right? We sat opposite each other, and we were interested because we were looking to work together and find sort of that place where we intersected with our work, and we were interested in our lifetimes, right? In what lifetimes we shared together. And so we decided to do this exercise where we sat on the floor and we stared into each other's eyes. And what happened was really crazy for me at that time. I was like, oh my God, this is nuts, because her eyes stayed exactly the same throughout all of the lifetimes. But her hair and her face and her sex, she would change man, woman, and
mm.
everything would change, but the eyes stayed exactly the same.
Wow.
And
Wow.
and so I keep going back to that. Um, and so many of us are so eyes out into the world, I'm sure you walk down the street and you see people who are just like, their eyes are just so far out that it's like they're grabbing at life as they walk. And it's very stressful, right? You can see the stress right away.
Mhm.
And it's because we try to control everything with our eyes. We try to, steer that thing over there, where it needs to go with our eyes, or, we try to stop something from happening with our eyes. We try to, all sorts of interference that's happening as we engage in our environments, and as we evolve, we remember, oh, yeah, I have no control over that. But still, the eyes are activated until they're not, right? So,
Yep. Yep.
so it's like we need to be able to soften them, and to, really be able to deactivate all of that, because if we can't do that, then it's very difficult for us to go into the internal space. And that's kind of my realm. So I fully applaud everyone who's doing all of the work out there, like doing all the, marching and all of the stuff that needs to be done out there. And then my world is like, I always, I always laugh because I have a bunch of kids, um, and my work looks very different from most people. So, I'm like,
Mm.
yeah, I'm doing my work, but I'm just sitting here with my eyes closed. Like
Mhm.
this is me doing my work. This
This
isn't
is my
me
work
like
spot. This is my office.
zoning
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this is me going deep.
Yeah.
Um, so, so it's like if and and my capacity to do that has increased as my ability to work with my eyes has increased.
Mm.
Um, so there's that aspect of like, being able to be simpler uh in our embodiment, like being if you if you tense your eyes, you can feel it all along the front of yourself because all of your flexors are connected and they activate
Mm.
as one. And
Mm.
so you can feel that. And then if you soften your eyes, then you can feel your breath. You can feel everything sort of come down, all of that muscular effort throughout your body just, I hate to say relaxes, I'll say softens. Um, and so there's like a real, this is like a place where you can really shift your whole, all of the tensioning. And it's also a place where we're just very aware of our eyes.
Mm.
Like some people aren't aware of their bodies that much, but very aware of their eyes. Um, so there's just a lot to be learned there. So that's been my latest kind of investigation.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I have a whole bunch of things going in terms of, uh, exploring different avenues right now. We've been talking about like jumping off different cliffs. It all has to do with, sort of delving into the unknown and getting comfortable in the unknown.
Mm.
Um, because, with the eyes, we try to know everything,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And so, like, we
Yeah.
take in information with our eyes and we're trying to keep track of everything with our eyes all the time. And then when we take the eyes out of the equation, it's like, oh, and there's safety there, right? There's like
Mm.
this whole mechanism to work with in terms of safety because some people don't like to close their eyes at all. And some people will be the first to close their eyes because they don't want to see anything. Um,
Mhm.
and so I I like to work with my higher self, my golden one, as I like to call her, or as she likes to be called. And that's kind of just because I see people's higher selves and I see them as these gold kinds of beautiful, uh, just shiny beings that sometimes pop out of a car or sometimes but they show themselves at random moments and they make me laugh. Um, but
It's so beautiful, the golden one. It's such a beautiful phrase. Yeah.
I was lucky enough. One of my clients set me up with a QHHT session, which is the quantum healing and hypnosis last week. So I got to like have a conversation where someone else was moderating it for me with my higher self. So I got a lot of information from that. And one of the things that I learned was, it was like, oh, we're not just keeping stuff out like that we want to keep out. The big thing is we're keeping out everything with our eyes. It's like our shield between us and the world, right? So it's not
Mm.
like just keeping out, oh, I want to keep that outside of me. It's like, oh, but then I'm keeping out all of this other stuff that I need to receive. And
Yeah.
so it's, and the sunlight. I'm sure. Have you had anyone here come on here talking about like the sun and the need to nourish our eyes with the sun and, to get those sun codes in there and to get that, it's just like getting flow back, getting light back in the body, and of course everyone would have you believe that you have to wear your sunglasses at every moment you enter outside. But as I look up into the sky, through the leaves of the forest, that's the perfect place for me. It just filters in nice and soft and get all of that goodness into the eyes, and
Mm.
kind of light them up. But just letting love in, like it's if we're guarded, we can't even let that in. So
Mm.
um, So a lot of the work has to do with, first of all, having the awareness to, like, the awareness of the tension first, because if we're not aware that we're doing work in any given area of our bodies, then there's not too much we can do about it.
Yep. Awareness
Um,
first. Yep.
yeah.
Mhm.
And then once there's the awareness there, then you can, like, start to play. Then it's like, "Oh, let's play in this space, let's get curious," and it's all about curiosity and wonder to me. It's
Yeah.
like, "How can I learn something here? Like, what can I listen to?" Um, so maybe let's just do a little softening of the eyes right now. Let's
Great.
just do that. And oh, before we really get into that space, what I use the breath for that. I use the breath is such a natural resource that we always have with us to work with when we're doing self healing, when we're doing any sort of self regulating. And so what I use is like a listening breath. And what a listening breath is you're actually listening to what the true pathway of ease is for wherever you're breathing into.
Mm.
So if you're breathing into the front of the heart space, you're listening for what your breath is like going in there. And depending on where you are, what kind of a day you're having or what time of day it is, you might have a very different breath into that space. You're allowing it to always be different. You're
Mm.
kind of
Mhm.
leaning towards, "Oh, let me see. Let me see. I wonder what this is like today." And then on the exhale, you're softening. So it's like listening in a place to see what your capacity is in every moment and not challenging that. So it's not about taking deep breaths. It's really very different from that, and that's kind of a conversation that I have with myself all the time and that I use for all of my healing. Like, if you can learn to listen to your body, well, then you can learn to heal yourself. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the key. It's really that simple. Um, you know, we
Love it,
make it
love it.
more
Path of least
complex, but
resistance. Yes, yes, and the body's showing you what she needs, where to pay attention.
absolutely,
Mhm.
all the time. So and when I say to breathe into a space, it's put your awareness into that space, and then you breathe while your awareness is there. You don't actually have to breathe into that space. For me, it's quite natural, and for a lot of people, it's quite natural, and some people, really are into that natural pathway of the breath and are like, "How do I breathe into my eye?" Like and I totally understand that. That's totally legitimate. So it just depends, but that is what I'm talking about when we get to that. So we're just gonna, if it's comfortable for everyone, you can all just close your eyes. This is just gonna be a short kind of an exercise that you can do whenever you feel like you could use a little bit of softness or a little bit of sort of like just de-stressing. Anytime that you're feeling a little bit stressed or before you go to bed and you want to sleep better, you want to like go off a little bit easier, it's great to be able to do this. So, all right, here we go.
Okay.
All right. So, as you close your eyes, just notice for a moment. Just notice what you feel in the eye space. Just get a sense of the left eye, get a sense of the right eye. And you might notice, and you don't need to name, a difference there, a difference of awareness, a difference of shape or tensioning, whatever you notice, just treat it with some curiosity, some wonder. And then we're just going to take a moment and bring the breath into the heart space first, because that's always a lovely place to start. So we're going to breathe into the front of the heart space. And as we breathe out, we're going to soften, soften, soften. So we're going to breathe into the front of the heart space, just that listening breath, just what's truly easy and simple. And as soon as we find that place where we have to increase the effort, we're going to turn around and exhale and allow the breath to just softly leave and allow ourselves to be in response to that. Allowing ourselves to simply soften wherever we soften. And then we're going to take a moment to breathe into the back of the heart space where we receive. And just notice here if you're truly listening with your breath. Notice what the breath is, what the quality is like, whether that pathway is clear or is it a little bit trickier to find, a little bit more sinuous. And as you breathe out, you soften and allow the heart space to open just that little bit. That's easy. And then go ahead and bring your attention, bring your awareness up into the eyes. And go ahead and begin to notice whether the left eye feels a little bit softer, a little bit more available, or the right eye. And if both feel equal, that's fine too. If you're not sure, but choose the one that's a little bit more available. Choose the one that feels a little bit easier. And I'd like you to breathe into that eye space from the front with that listening, loving breath. It's like you're breathing in some warmth. You're listening to where the breath travels. And then as you breathe out, you're softening. And you're breathing into that eye space, listening to what's available. And as you breathe out, you're allowing the eye to untension, to soften, to let go. And notice where your attention is as you breathe into the eye space. Is it on the outside of the eye? Is it on the inside corner? And wherever your awareness has been, shift it just a tiny bit to include a little bit more of the landscape. So that you're noticing what's included in that awareness and what might need a little bit of breath in order to come clearer. And I'd like you to breathe into the center of the eye with just that really simple, easy breath. And as you breathe out, just allowing there to be a little bit more room inside there. Allowing there to be a little bit more space between the cells. And then go ahead and bring your breath to the back of the eye space, just behind the eye. What's that like to bring the breath there? Just what's truly simple, that pathway of ease. And as you breathe out, softening, opening, opening, opening. And allowing the eye now to rest back, to float as if there's some water just behind the eye. And allowing the eye to float back and be held. And giving permission for your eye to not have to do anything and not have to see anything, not even having any need to make sense of the light filtering in through the eyelid. And then, if it feels good, go ahead and visualize a tiny little pillow just behind the eye, and allow the eye to rest back into the socket fully, into this beautiful, soft, warm pillow. Breathing into the eye space all around the eye. And as you breathe out, softening, softening. And then going ahead and moving your attention to the other eye now. And just noticing what this eye feels like in your awareness. Just being curious about that. And then beginning to bring the breath into that eye. With a listening breath. So, just what's simple here. As soon as you would have to make any more effort, you allow yourself to exhale with the intention of softening, easing, and then noticing on the next breath what's available there. And on the exhale, allowing that unfurling, that reshaping. And then beginning to bring the breath into the back of the eye space. Just what's simple. And as you breathe out, softening and opening up that space. And then, if it feels good for you, allowing that eye to receive the softest, most beautiful nest right behind it. Pillow, something beautifully soft and yet also able to give the perfect holding, take over any work that's being done there. And as the eyes settle back, begin to notice if there's anything, any place in your body that is in response to the eyes settling back. And if there is, I would like you to bring your breath into that space and begin to explore with a listening, loving breath by breathing in once to this space that's in response with the intention of allowing that softening and that opening on the exhale. And then moving your attention back into the eye space, breathing into the eye space, both eyes now. And as you breathe out, softening, softening, allowing that resting back, that giving over of their weight, that not having to see or make sense of anything. And just allowing your awareness to be a little bit more global so that you can sense and feel your body and what's happening there as the eyes rest back. And if there's any other place that you would like to bring your breath, could be your solar plexus, could be your root chakra, your lower back, your belly, your throat. Wherever that feels aligned for you, bring the breath there and explore with the listening breath. Always with the sense of curiosity, allowing everything to be exactly what it is, and breathing in with appreciation for all of the information that your body is giving you. It's like you can actually bring a smile in. You can breathe a smile into any of these spaces and get a sense of what happens. What is the response in that space to a smile? Just noticing how the body shifts and softens as you bring your awareness and your breath. And we're going to bring our breath back into the heart space now, breathing into the front of the heart space a few times, listening to that pathway in, and on the exhale, allowing that space to soften and open, to yield. Breathing appreciation into the heart space, bringing love. And as you breathe out, allowing a little bit more opening. And then bringing the breath around to the back of the heart space, where we receive and breathing in some love and some appreciation into this beautiful space here. And as you breathe out, softening, softening, and opening, opening, opening that up. And then just breathing a couple of times into the whole heart space. However you imagine that as a sphere, whatever that feels like for you, breathing into the center of the heart space. With appreciation for all that it yields, all that it holds for us. And on the out breath, softening and allowing it to open as much as feels good. And then as we prepare to come back, I'd like you to breathe into the eye space just a couple of times, remembering those eye pillows that are just behind, remembering that not having to do anything, make sense of anything, even the light. And as you breathe out, allowing anything that's held there to fall away. And in a second, I'm going to invite you to open your eyes, but I'd like you to do so in a way where you allow your eyes to open so that you are allowing light to filter in, but you still don't need to make sense of anything. You can allow your eyes to stay soft and to allow the world to come in through the light. So you can go ahead and play in that space of opening your eyes just a little bit that's easy. Just what feels really nourishing, where the light can stay soft. And allow them to fall where they do. See if you can allow your horizon to fall wherever it falls without any need for it to be where it usually would be. And just take a moment to acclimate, maybe rubbing your palms together, just to remind yourself of the rest of you, your body, your edges, your contours with your loving hands. And then just sensing and feeling how you are in your space. So, yeah, it's like it's like going from the bright light of the day to like dusk, it's like, oh, yeah, there's a softness to that time of day. There's something available there, something very magical about being in that space between light and dark. And there's so much that's available to us when we can kind of nourish ourselves in this way. So if any of you out there want to just share any comments or experience, um, you are welcome to do that, or you can stay in the space where you are, whatever feels good for you. But any questions or anything that came up during that, please feel free to just jump in anytime.
I'm Lynn's moderator, so just type away, and I'll read your questions. It was so beautiful, such a great invitation. I can feel a major difference in my eyes. Shatai says you are both glowing. Hi, Shatai. Matt says, "Wow." That covers it. Ditto.
Yeah. Yeah. So one thing that can happen from there is once you can, excuse me, once you can feel the softening and then you can feel the tensioning, then you can play in that space, especially different times of day where you become aware. You just close your eyes for a moment and you become aware of your eyes. And you can begin to play with this kind of softness so that if you are one of those eyes out people in the world, you'll notice a huge difference in how you greet the world. It's like going from a place where you're kind of controlling or trying to um, figure out what to let in and what not to let in, into a space where you're like, oh, okay. And the other thing is, um, for some of you, it might have been a softening or an opening that was in response in the body. And that's lovely. And we can always breathe into that space and bring more opening or a more subtle opening, softer opening, and encourage that whole opening up of the central channel. This was just a short exercise. But then also, there are sometimes some places that are kind of triggered by the softening of the eyes, right? that are in response and reaction rather than being in response, being in reaction to the softening. And that's why I invited you to just explore other spaces, because when that happens, it's like noticing what's triangulating with the eyes, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is really in resistance to this? And you can play in that kind of what's safe space and see,
Mhm.
where it shows up in your body when it doesn't feel safe,
Mm.
and explore it in a way that's kind of simple,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
It's very simple. Yep. I love it. Exactly. I've definitely noticed as you were exploring, it would be, this part of the eye is this part of my solar plexus kind of thing. And then would move into the solar plexus and then watch how my eye would open more as a result of tending to my solar plexus. I also noticed how the eye, it was when I was going, so it was my left eye that was more accessible, and it was the whole left brain.
Mm.
It was as the whole it was like I could feel the 2 sides, and so I opened the eye, and then it felt like the whole left side of like, it was like air was coming into my left side of the head, and then I sort of templated off of that when we went over into the right eye. Um, but I know, I mean, everything is connected, but the eyes are so connected to how it all operates. It's very clear. So it makes
Yeah.
total sense as like a I'll often use the phrase ground zero, like in the center of the heart is a ground zero, the chakras, are ground
Yeah.
zero for a wound. But I'm seeing, yeah, there's and I'll often use like the middle of the head or behind the eyes. But and I have, come into the eyes, but it is a ground zero place. I
Oh,
can
yeah.
see. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I can
Yeah.
see. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's also this notion right now when we're opening our hearts and coming into unity and,
Mhm.
diving into that space as the center of everything, where our brain space can actually be more centralized in the heart, right? And we can activate that as our, focal point for everything.
Mhm.
Of these kind of pathways opening, right? So that the senses can then descend into their natural place, which should be in the heart, right?
Yeah.
That the
Yeah.
eyes don't have to be so intricately connected to the brain space.
Mm.
They can be in a much softer, easier connection with the heart space. And so that we can actually begin to see through our hearts in a
Yes.
very real, felt, experiential sense.
Love it.
So that's kind of, it's like opening up this whole pathway for that descent
Mm.
of the senses. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot to play with in there. And I think a lot of us are in this throat space right now. A lot of people that I know, a lot of people I work with, it's all the
Mhm.
throat stuff coming up, right? All of that interference. Because how are we supposed to allow our senses to go down into our hearts and really like live life from this space if this is still like really narrow or really like wounded?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
there's also a lot to play with in there, and a lot to play with anything that's connected with the eyes. And every day that could be different.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but it's like these
So
chords, like some people would actually like
yeah.
visualize them as chordings, right? Like between the
Yeah.
eyes and the solar plexus, between the eyes and the root, between the eyes and the right hip, whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and the interesting thing is that, we can get to the whole body through the eyes, just like from the feet, from a
Yeah.
perspective of getting to every part of yourself you can get to from the feet, which is
Mhm.
where I work with people in person, but working with the eyes doesn't work when you're dealing with touch and
Yeah.
movement. Um,
There's
it's not
one
so
body part you
available.
can't really get in there. Yeah. Yeah.
And on the other hand, it's very difficult for us to work with our own feet in any connected kind of easy way. Um, so then the eyes afford us that other place to really check in with the entire body. Um,
Mm,
because if I asked you to, register your like most peaceful memory, you would most likely experience that in your eyes, and you would also experience it somewhere in your body, right? Maybe it's the
mhm,
heart space, or if I conversely asked you to visualize like a time that you felt really scared, you would feel that in your eyes and you would feel that in another space, a different space, like your stomach or your solar plexus or your right hip if there was trauma, you know? Um, but all of these different spaces in the body. And so, what I love about working with the eyes is that you can access it all there,
mm, mhm. Yeah,
right?
yeah, yep,
Whereas it takes a lot of awareness work in order to, really get into all the landscape and be able to travel inside to your right hip and like really
mm,
get to know all of that. But I feel like as a starting point for people who haven't done a lot of awareness work, um, the eyes are, a place to start and also where a lot of the work can actually be done, like right there.
mhm, okay,
Um,
yeah,
yeah. So,
yeah.
for me,
Art
simplicity is
is like
where
a
it's at.
hologram.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's like
absolutely, absolutely.
if it's
I love
accessible, then it's a place to heal. And yeah, and we're all just so aware of them, right? Like
yep, totally,
every
totally,
emotion,
everything.
like we read each other, like we look at
Yeah,
each other, we look at ourselves, it's like we're
mm,
engaged with everything with our eyes. And
yes,
so
yes. And that
it's
it like you said, it's this they're what stays the same in these lifetimes, right? They're the
yeah.
central focus, they're the seat of the soul. When you were talking about that, I saw the Indra's net idea, right? That the one mind, the one being is this big net with these eyeballs hanging on all the different intersections, And that those are our points of view, literal points of view, and that
Yeah.
each of us are of the same mind, of the same body, one God, one of us, but we look from all these different angles. And so it really is the portal to this particular point of view, and that, of course, includes the whole body.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and I love this idea of the descent. That's a really beautiful word because the eyes and all of the senses are they're meant to be, just like the mind is, in service of the heart. They're in service of this particular body and this being, which is different than who I was in that other lifetime. Her
Yeah.
heart and her love and her passion and her purpose, right, is served by this point of view, by like, that's we're here to enjoy ourselves,
Oh, yeah. Oh,
to live from the
absolutely.
heart,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and we can access so many different lifetimes from the eyes because of this fact, I believe, it's like
Mhm,
so as we get deeper into it, um, we can actually play in that space of this listening is very important. So developing that, listening to the body as opposed to dictating something, which it sounds like a huge distinction, but it's like we cross that line so quickly. We can do it like even in a meditation that we do every day, right? There's a way that we can allow it to land and we can allow our body to feel the words coming in, or we can do it by rote and we can phone it in and our body is not having the same experience and nothing is the same about those two practices. It's all about listening. And
Mhm.
it's also
Yeah.
about like, "Oh, today this isn't the thing." You know, like
Exactly, exactly. What's true? What does the body actually want? Well, let's go with that.
Yeah, exactly. Let's listen to something else.
Yeah,
Let's go in a different direction. That's not my rhythm today,
yeah.
so we can go in a million different directions with the listening and all of that. Um, but, uh, but what happens is if we can allow the eyes to be the focal point and we can have our eyes closed and softened, then we can begin to feel where they would like to move,
Mm,
and they will begin to show us these angles that we can look up in. We look up in certain directions, and all of a sudden we get a flash of a
mm,
past life, or we get a feeling, a really strong feeling, um, without needing that flash, without needing to be in recognition of a specific event. But the
mhm,
flashes are so quick, it's not like we're staying there like we might in other parts of the body. It's
mhm.
like such a quick thing, and then we can allow that to be embodied, spread out, and it's done.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, love it.
and the emotion is like lifetimes of sadness, lifetimes of, feeling betrayed, lifetimes of so it's this pooling of emotion that becomes accessible so that we're actually able to allow that to flow through instead of carrying that anymore because we're carrying all of these things lifetime to lifetime to lifetime. Our
Mhm.
eyes have seen, experienced so much that it's
Yeah,
incredible, you know?
totally. I'm always hesitant to use the phrase "past lifetime." It's a fine phrase, but since there really isn't time, it's just one moment.
Right.
Um, I might sometimes I'll say like other lifetimes or, or another it's
Right,
it's
right,
another
right,
angle,
right. Yep.
Um, but that it's you're always gonna heal now,
Yes.
and it's gonna be in this body now. You're not gonna
Absolutely.
heal, in the next lifetime or in the next moment even.
Right.
And
Right.
he is the portal for all of it.
Yep.
And if you heal this piece and this part of the heart, also, not only are you healing you and all your lifetimes, you're healing the fields you're connected with and the one body,
Yep.
and
Absolutely.
it ripples and ripples, yeah. And of
Yeah.
course, this is a field here, and there's fields within fields and within fields,
Yeah,
so,
and
yeah,
your lineage and your,
exactly.
all of that, it's like all factoring in, but it's like how much of that are you holding
Yeah,
in your body, right? And how much of and as you can release all of that, then of course you become a brighter light to radiate out into the world, and then that ripples out into the world, and so it's like how we're getting
yeah,
in our own way, in this field of the eyes, and how we can get out of our own way, how we can make that a little bit simpler.
yeah,
And, and the other thing is, like, how are we going to ever allow ourselves to truly see a brand new world,
yes,
right?
yes,
Unless we're comfortable in the not knowing, we're not dictating what we're seeing any longer. We're
yes,
just opening up
yes,
to listening in a new way so that we can perceive differently. So playing in that space, because that's really important to me. It's like, oh, we can envision all of this, but how can we start to actually see these differences out in the world? And I think that those can be really, truly lived experiences here, now, and that we don't have to wait for that, but we do have some work to do in order
yeah,
to get into that, and by work, I mean fun work, like play work, like jump off a cliff work,
yeah,
dive into the not knowing work.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but, just getting playful with it, but also just getting curious about it and,
mhm,
and getting rid of all the expectations and the assumptions that we make with our eyes all the time.
Yeah.
right? And that
Yeah.
things are going to be exactly what we think they're gonna be, right? And
Mhm.
accepting, "Oh, maybe something will be different," you know? And, like,
Mhm.
really
Mhm.
inviting that to be the experience because I'm all for making this world new.
Absolutely, absolutely, and the eyes I talked about this a few, sessions ago or whatever it was, but, Rupert Sheldrake talks about how the eyes are projectors, right? We're projecting this whole thing. So if we relax and soften and clear and clean the eyes, the projector screen is cleaned.
Yeah,
And this being only projects from its nature, from its base nature, fulfillment. It doesn't tell a different story. We've been told a different story, and we then keep projecting it through the eyes. Um, but it's not actually the true story of a body, of a being.
yeah,
And this sounds like it's just a beautiful, direct very direct way to, I don't know, wipe the projector screen, you know?
clean.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, as I sit and as I work with this, and it's all, very new. I'm talking about I've been working with this for maybe a few weeks, right? Like,
Wouldn't know it.
um, and everything sort of weaves in from other things. But um, what I'm noticing is that, like, I can very quickly, allow my eyes to go in different directions and heal, 5 different experiences, 5 different
Mm,
timelines I've been on, or, different emotions, or, it's
mm,
just it's so quick. And also what I love about it is that we're not apt to go down a whole lot of rabbit holes because
mm,
I in my experience over the course of my energetic trainings and all of that, it's like, "Ooh, that's fun. Let's go into
mm,
that past life," or whatever you wanna call it, and let's go see what happened there. That's really interesting. Let me see the whole story. Let me climb in there for a while, and we end up, like, down all of these rabbit holes that are really interesting, and yet we can go down them forever. They're
totally,
infinite.
totally.
And
Yeah,
we can get lost
infinite.
down there, right?
Totally.
So
And fall in love with the story and the drama, and meanwhile, this body over here is neglected.
right, and meanwhile, like, that's not really, it's too much time spent, and it's not really
Mhm.
getting us anywhere, right? It's not doing the work, it's a distraction, and it's a fun distraction,
Mhm.
and I find that a lot of people go there for at least a little while, climb down those rabbit holes. So if you're doing that, then have fun. And also know that, like, there is this other sense of, like, "Oh, I don't have to climb down that rabbit hole.
Yeah,
I can just allow that to move. I can just allow
yeah.
that to." I can What happens when things are stored in the body is they tend to, like, really, um, be almost compacted in a place, right?
Mhm.
And with the breath, we can open them up, and then we can allow them to express. We can invite them to express more fully, to become like this bigger thing where we feel on our faces, we feel in our eyes, we feel in our bodies this emotion so that it can be digested, and then it can just
Mhm.
evaporate or,
Yeah.
move through. Um, and, it's just it's like this way of just using this, which is always with us, it's right there. We don't need any tools. Like, we
No.
don't there's nothing necessary. We can play anywhere, anytime. Put yourself out in nature because that's just the trees are
Yeah,
like
yeah.
my biggest teachers.
Mhm.
I mean, talk about blurring the lines between perceiver and perceived. If we can like really get into nature, I think that's the first access point, at least for me, where there's nothing that isn't in alignment.
Mhm.
And there's nothing that isn't in love. There's nothing that is in judgment. There's nothing, it's just all right there, a community right, right before our eyes, reaching out and saying,
Yes.
please invite us in.
Totally, totally. I'm on TikTok, and there's this whole theme going on where women who do this kind of healing and are very in touch with Gaia, they show right on screen. They'll be sitting near a tree, and the branch will be here, and they'll be like, "Hi, Gaia, will you touch my shoulder?" And you will just watch as the tree just goes down and touches. And then, "Will you give me a kiss?" And then it goes and kisses her. And it's just every time, and it's like, and the woman's just so confident, and I'm like, "Yep, there's a full relationship going on. Yeah, this is our
Oh, yeah.
extended body. This is us. We are Gaia."
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And just waiting for us to notice.
Waiting for us to notice, exactly. She's just waiting for us to hang out with her, to love her, to kiss her, to have a
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. And to really receive, like,
Mhm.
it's like we can go out there and hug trees and have this whole relationship where we're just out there and we're just like kind of in rapture of everything that's around us. And then there's also this notion of being able to receive all of that love and that appreciation and being truly seen and felt and heard right back, like
Mhm.
being able to complete that infinity loop so that it's like we're not only giving it out, but we're receiving it back. And, I feel like that's where a lot of us are kind of, we don't
Mhm.
notice it
That's what we're waiting for.
until
Yeah,
we notice
totally. Yeah,
it.
yes. There's so much
But
to receive.
there's,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So there's that beautiful invitation that's right there. And I just every time I walk into the woods, like today, the seeds were all scattered along the pathway. And it's like no tree is worried about whether those seeds are gonna grow.
Yeah.
It's like, here, have the seeds, let them do their thing. I'm releasing them into the world and seeing what happens.
Mhm,
And so if we
mhm.
can do more of that and just release things into the world without following them out with our eyes, it's like we're following them to make sure that they land where we want them to land, and there's a lot of that. And that's a lot of the kind of tensioning is that sense that we need to do something. We need to actually be aware of all of that as we create,
Right.
right?
I totally agree. Yep. Love it. I see some questions for you, so let me read those.
Oh yeah,
Shatai says, "So
absolutely.
needed. Thank you." Claudia says, "How to work when one eye is very present and the other one isn't. Huge difference between the two."
Oh yeah, absolutely. So that's a beautiful invitation, and that could be with anything.
Mhm.
One side of yourself versus the other side. Um, as far as like Feldenkrais goes and working with the body, the whole philosophy there is that we work with our parts that are easier to access, because
Mhm.
those are the open pathways and those are the places that we can know ourselves, in ease
Mhm.
first. And
Mhm.
so we work with that side. And so we would work with the eye that is more present. And we would just keep working, really nourishing that eye
Mm.
with no
Mm.
real, we don't need to go over to the other eye until we're drawn to it. And because of the beauty of our bodies and our nervous systems and how our brains operate,
Mhm.
before you ever get over to the second eye, that second eye is already receiving the information from this experience over here. And
That's it.
so we
Mhm.
work with that place of ease so that we can then, be teaching and offering something different to that other eye that's a little bit less present, a little bit less easy. And you just start in the second eye, you're going to start in that place of ease, whether it's a tiny little corner, maybe it's the
Mhm.
inside corner of the eye, and you start there, and then you start to just allow it to move out and explore. And it's like there's
Mhm.
nothing that has to happen.
Mm.
There's absolutely no expectation, there's no demand, there's no
Mhm.
anything. It's just kind of like, huh, I wonder why that is. It's always about curiosity. It's like, well, that's really interesting. Like,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
just appreciating that weirdness of, like that things aren't symmetrical in us and that our awareness is not symmetrical either. And so we can allow ourselves to really be like in appreciation of that and be
Mhm.
okay with it and and sort of like nourish ourselves back in that space and again remap in the brain because if we're leaning hard on one side and relying on one side, actually it would probably be that we're over reliant on the side that is doing more work,
Mhm.
and then
Mhm.
this other side is more open and free.
Mhm.
um
Mhm.
so,
Mhm.
it's not always what you think it is, but we always start in that place of ease. We don't need to figure out what the patterning is. It's like always start with the pathway of ease, always listen to what the breath is like there. Always like breath to breath, you're listening. And you just
Mhm.
get really fluent in this other language
Mhm.
of listening to the breath in the body and allowing it to be exactly what it is, and then just following it from there. Just really like listening to what's in response, listening to what wants attention, listening to what wants some love today, listening to the places that just have kind of fallen off the map, that have disappeared,
Mhm.
all of it. It's like you can listen to your the breath go into the heart one day and it's coming in like wonky sideways and you're like, "Huh, that's really interesting. Okay, let's get curious
Mhm.
about that." And it's all play. It's all like
Mhm.
there's nothing to be lost through any it's just all exploration, and it's like being able to explore like we know our outer world so well. It's like, let's get to know this. Let's get to know
Yeah.
the inside of this and really get curious in there and really understand that our bodies are our allies. They are our greatest
Mhm.
like they give us so much information and you may not like
Mhm.
the information you get all the time, but it's like, wow, that pain, that sudden pain, what great information, like let's say I'm out for a walk in the woods and it's like sudden sharp pain in my left knee. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
stop, get
Mhm.
curious,
Mhm.
like, just put awareness there, listen, and then it's gone. It's like
Yeah.
in the moment, you can
In
just
the moment.
it's just gone,
It's gone,
right? It's
yes,
not
you
like,
you need
"Oh,
it and it moves
let's
on,
power
yeah.
through."
Uh-uh.
It's like, "Oh, it's just," and it's all about being like, knowing your landscape
Mhm.
and then being able to have just a few very simple tools so that you can listen and be open to listening
Mhm.
and, bringing along your curiosity, your sense of play, your sense of wonder, all of it, and all of the love and all of the warmth. And, you can play with bringing the sun in, you can play with, bringing fire in or a match or a candle or something to light the way. You can play with all sorts of different ways in and ways to explore, but it's well worth exploring. It's just it's like such a beautiful gift to yourself every single time, and there's so much to be learned in that space, so
Mhm.
thanks, Claudia, for that question, and that was way off.
No, it's
That was a
superb. I mean,
lot.
that's you answered that's the gist of it, right? like, if we go out to look for whatever it is, we're looking for a feeling. We're looking for a sense of peace or attentiveness or love, which we are sitting in. We are that love, that attentiveness, that curiosity, that inward
Absolutely.
touch that we're looking for out there. So there's no other gig in town. Like, this is it.
Yeah,
This is what it
exactly.
comes down to. This is the joy. And the body, like you were saying, it's like I like to say, like, it doesn't punk itself. Like, the body won't ask for something that isn't gonna lead you, the body, further into fulfillment.
Right,
It only it's only looking it's like, here's pain, it's only to give it attention to make your life better, to feel
right,
better,
right.
you know? It's
Absolutely.
not trying to trick you, it's not trying to, hurt you. The body is completely and utterly trustworthy. It's really the only thing that is. The mind is not.
Right, right.
That one's trying to punk you because that's the
Yeah.
inherited conditioning that would go
Yeah.
against the path of least resistance, which you so beautifully laid out, right? You just follow what is the most fun, the most easy portal in, and it'll just keep taking you further in, deeper and deeper.
Yep. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
One more
Yeah.
question here. Oh, sorry. Um, Matt says, I'm aware of the tightness in the muscles around my eyes, how to tend to that, like forehead, third eye area, etc.
Yeah. There are a lot of, so as you get deeper into the work, first of all, you can really attend to your jaw. Because the jaw and the eyes are very interconnected. So,
Mhm.
and a lot of people are not very aware of the tension that they carry in their jaws. And so you breathe like right into the bone space, and you remember that your bones are alive, and you remember that there can be a little bit more space between those cells, and you imagine it, and you can, you really get in there. Um, and so you can do the same thing with your whole skull. You can
Mhm.
do the same thing, like, right at the ridge of your eyes, right?
Mhm.
So, and of course, your third eye, your forehead, all of the different spaces you can play with. And often, if we were doing something longer, we'd go into the brain space, we go into the back, like that space between the brain and the skull. Um, we do a lot of, sort of work in there with like allowing things to melt, allowing things to, really um, come into like a different shape, like take a more natural shape as they let down, give way to gravity, all of that. So um, it's quite natural to have a lot of tension around the eyes. And it's really, really helpful to notice, okay, what's that related to? My solar plexus? That comes up a lot. It's like, that's what I'm feeling right now. So maybe that's true for you. And it's like, well, if those 2 things are in relation, then I start to play in that relationship. I start to play in the easiest place there, and then I go back and forth, and really kind of explore that, still using the breath. It is like such a simple tool and such a wonderful barometer, gives us so much information all the time. Um, and, when people think of the breath, often they think of like taking a deep breath
Mhm.
or taking a certain kind of breath, which is lovely for different practices. And, like there's all different ways of using the breath. But in this case, when we're exploring and when we're trying to like really get to know something, using the breath in this kind of listening sense is much. It's like there's no insistence. There's no, like, you get to that place where you would have to just put in a tiny bit of effort to go further, and you don't. Maybe you do half the breath next time.
Mhm.
Maybe if you're a pusher, maybe if you're like someone who really likes to push the edges, you really go so small. And with Feldenkrais, it's like the smaller you go, the greater the result. You see these, people who are just like all into these huge movements, and because they're so global, they're not listening. And then you see these people who are doing like these very small movements. You can't even see them moving. And the changes are like unbelievable because they're truly listening, and they're, if they're feeding their nervous systems very different information. They're not going against the information that's being given to them. And so it's such a beautiful way to come into right relationship with yourself and to allow your body to be like, I'm listening to you. I'm really listening to you. I really, I hear you. I feel you. Thank you. Having all these conversations, so that we can like really, see that this is such an asset for us that we don't need to judge it. We don't need to, there's none of, we've done too much of that already. We need to go in the opposite direction and say, thank you so much. That really gave me a signal. I'm going to listen. When
Yeah.
my engine light goes on in my car, I take it to the shop. When I get this, I'm not going to ignore it. I'm not going to ignore these, little things lighting up in my body anymore. And I'm not going to look to the outside, right? It's like you don't have to go running someplace to find out what someone else thinks about it. You can actually go inside and do something for yourself to free yourself of that in that moment before it even goes any further, and you don't have to push through.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. Yep. We're so used to neglecting ourselves, to not having that intimacy and that in touchness, because of our families, because of the culture we live in. We are treated like robots, so we do the same. But this is this return that is so intimate and so beautiful and such an ongoing exploration.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
One more comment here from Claudia. She says the eyes carry everything because they are always the same. The rest of the body does change from one lifetime, timeline, parallel reality. Yeah, love it. Shataya has a question. How do you see our being expressing as body in the experience of listening that you led us through? What is the body in this context? And how does listening differ from seeing in the process? I loved the listening pointer versus noticing. It deepens for me. Great.
Um, hmm. Well, the body becomes a space to me. It becomes like an internal space. So it's this space that we can have some so we can listen to it and understand where it is like a little bit tighter and a little bit has a little bit more room, and then we can begin to play and shift and allow that to take different shape. So, depending on how you visualize, depending on your own internal experience, it could look very different. Um, but it's very different from what was the word? Um, Not perceiving. Uh,
Seeing or no? See our being. How do you see our? Uh, what is the body in this context, and how does listening differ from seeing in the process?
from seeing in the process. Yeah. And so, it is like that. That's a beautiful question because there's like this need to be able to see, and to be able to make sense of. And what you're being prompted to do is let go of that need to see, that need to know, that need to make sense of. And so that you can simply go into like curiosity about, well, is it a color? Is it a sensation? Is it like what's coming to me here? What's available to me here? Maybe it's colder over there and it's a little warmer here. Maybe there's more light over here and I see something shadowy over there, but it's like, how can I sense and feel this? Because that's the language of it. It's like sensing and feeling rather than seeing. Um, because then we open it up to any sensory experience and we take it away from the eyes. As soon as we're like seeing, perceiving, it becomes very eye centric already. And you'll notice that your eyes get activated when you're doing any trying, even in this whole perceptual realm of what's inside of us and trying to know the inner landscape. It's like the eyes can get very busy. It's like when
Trying to
you
figure it out.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's like if someone tells you, "Oh, you need to switch hands on shoveling," right? You should be doing it on both sides so that it's, you're not doing it just all one way. And what happens is, like, you switch sides and it's so uncomfortable that the side that you're used to using to do the shoveling the way you usually do it, it's tensing up extra to compensate for the fact that it's allowing this to happen over here. So there's a lot happening in the body, and it's the same
Yeah.
thing. It's like when there's trying, the eyes are automatically activated. They're automatically
Mhm.
going to be doing something, and we're asking them to sort of take a back seat,
Mhm.
take a
Love it.
rest. You don't
Take a
have
rest.
to
Back. Yeah.
you don't have to
Yeah.
do anything right now. You have permission to just let's tuck you in and let's just allow this to be a very different experience.
Love
Um,
that. Love
yeah.
that. I'm gonna experiment with just resting my eyes on those pillows while I'm walking around. Maybe one more question here from Doc Smith, who's coming on Friday, by the way, for those who missed that. Um, Love this about the eyes, working with the healthy one primarily to start. When I learned polarity therapy bodywork modality, we were taught that the healthy side teaches the symptomatic side. Love it.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, that information gets transferred immediately. Even visualizing on the healthy side will
Mhm.
change the other side, without any movement whatsoever. And so it's just we have such capacity, such great capacity for healing. We just have to lean into that healthier aspect. We just have to start in those places where we feel nourished and good and build out from there rather than going straight for that place that we want to see that things shift. It's
And
like,
this is
let's
the
be
culture,
gentle
right?
with ourselves. We would
Yeah.
never do that to our children. We would never do that to others in the way that we do it to ourselves. We're like insistent, like, oh, I'm going to fix this and I'm going to fix it right now. And it's like, no,
Mhm.
no, you have to remember, you have to nourish, you have to take the
Yeah.
time, like really you deserve it. You're
Yeah.
totally worth it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we don't even have to earn it. Like this idea of sacrifice and hard work and trying that there's a value there. And nothing else, like you were describing the trees, nothing else in nature would say that. Just
Right.
our human enslavement system that would say that.
Right, exactly.
That's what an enslaver would tell you. That the value is in your pain.
Right.
Trying harder. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's always that pathway of ease. It's always
Mhm.
like, where can I find more ease? Where can I be a little simpler? Where can I do less?
Mhm.
That's the whole way with the body, with everything, but
Everything.
certainly the language we can use with our own bodies. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
where can I soften? Oh, usually it's the shoulders, right? Like, oh, it's that
Mhm.
time of day when I usually feel really tense, like it
Mhm.
used to be when the kids were little and it was dinner time or something. And, it's like, and it's just like, oh, close your eyes. Oh, yeah, I can soften. I can, totally
Mhm.
just takes 2 seconds. And then it doesn't go into bed with you and it doesn't wake up with you and it doesn't, it's like, oh, let's just nourish ourselves all the time. Let's live.
Yes. Uh-oh. Did she freeze for everybody else? Mhm. A little glitch. Oh, no, we lost her. Oh, shoot. Let me see if I can add her just to say goodbye. Bup, bup, bup. Frozen. Yep, dropped off, but we're gonna invite her back. See if her Wi-Fi got better. Wrap up anyway. While we're nourishing to listen to, totally. I agree. I'm inspired. I'm inspired to do a deep exploration in the body tomorrow. So come for that. We'll do a full hour of healing and and softening. And then Thursday do a, you know, or follow up on whatever might get triggered there. And then Doc Smith will be here Friday. Just killing time to see if she can come back. So good to see you, Shatai. Well, it was about time to end. I just hate to end without a deep appreciation goodbye. Oh, here we go. Can you hear us, Lynn?
Sorry about that.
No worries. It was about time to end anyway, but I wanted to invite you back to have a proper goodbye and get all your appreciation and all your heart.
Thank you. I really appreciate being on here and, having all you guys, wonderful questions and, such a great community. And I love the fact that this community is building and, just so much opening up here. And, so thanks for holding this space as always. And,
a pleasure. I hope you
really
come back. I
appreciate
hope
it.
we,
Oh yeah.
obviously we'll stay connected.
Yep.
And hit up Lynn Kenny, Rewilding. The Rewilding is the name of is that right?
Yeah. I'm, my website is Wisdom Portals. Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's really my brand here. I'm the Rewilding because it's all about like getting wild again. As far as I'm concerned. But anyway, so if you have any questions, please do reach out, and you can reach out in the chat, of course. And yeah, absolutely. Let's do, we can do a longer experience, we can go deeper, we can do some eye healing, all sorts of things. So yeah, love to.
Can't wait. Love it all. Love it all. I'll tag you and your website and everything in the description when I post the recording so everybody can have access. Okay. Cool.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so
See you
much.
soon. Thanks again, Lynn.
Okay.
Bye,
All
y'all.
right.
Much
Bye.
love. Bye.